When I first heard about Rebel Moon, I heard the line, Netflix is making his own Star Wars saga. And I knew, well, this is gonna be complete shit, and never thought about it again. The end. Well, sadly, it isn't, because a few nights ago, I was walking downstairs to get some food at like 3 a.m. because I don't know, and I saw my dad watching a movie. So I asked him what movie was this, and he said Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. So obviously I was a bit confused, like, wait, there's a second movie, and where have I heard this before? So I kind of got intrigued. What the fuck is this franchise? So I googled it basically, and I found out that the ratings are just mwah, and there apparently are two movies: Rebel Moon, the Child with Fire, or some shit like that, and Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. I was already like, ooh, these are kind of horrible. But the thing is that I don't really like watching movies that have about a rating of 5. Like when they have a 1 or a 2, it's incredibly funny because they're really, really low rated. And that's just, very funny. And when you have very high rated movies, it's very epic because, well, they're high rated. So they're just very good and very well directed, and then it's always interesting. And sometimes when it's a 7, it's very creative or something. But the number 5 is just the most cursed, because it isn't gonna be bad enough to be enjoyable, and you also know it isn't really gonna have a lot of good stuff. It's just gonna be the most boring and mid experience ever. So I wouldn't watch it. But the thing is, when I googled these two movies, a little magical name, alright? A director who made fantastic films like this one.
Earthquake. No, Captain. Battle formations.
And this one.
What are you waiting for? The wind. Do it!
And even this one, but then a better version of that. That's right, I'm talking about Zack Snyder, baby. Now, the thing is that a lot of people really hate Zack Snyder. He isn't really the, most well appreciated director. I mean, he's not M. Night Shyamalan, but Shyamalan? I don't know. But he's not like him, but he's still not very appreciated. He made 300, and after that, it was just downhill, basically. But the thing is, I personally really like Zack Snyder. He's really kind of creative. Zack Snyder is always, kind of to me at least, he's kind of like this, I don't know, like a, like a little boy who actually has the money to make a movie, basically, right? He has like the shit that you come up with when you're playing with Legos or something, like, oh, there's gonna be a war and me, but he actually films it, basically. And at the same time, it's very 18 plus. It's genius. It's like those two just came together and made movies, and it's awesome. I like it. Like even his worst movies, I think Sucker Punch, for example. I don't think a lot of people liked Sucker Punch. I really like that movie because it's so goofy. It was very interesting. You never get bored of Zack Snyder. That's the point I'm trying to make. His movies could be bad, but even then they're still enjoyable. So even though Rebel Moon had a 5, which is just the cursed number for a movie, because I saw Zack Snyder, I was like, okay, I have to check these babies out, right? So, what's talking? That's right, me. And today, we're gonna be reviewing Rebel Moon, Part 1 and Part 2. Enjoy. So the movie opens with already a bunch of logos that I have never seen in my entire life, so it's gonna be good, and some boring dialogue.
On the mother world, 1,000 kings ruled unchallenged in succession.
Although I do gotta give some credit, I really like the whole 90s style intro. Like, they are kind of ripping off Star Wars, but I really like the title crawl as well. I mean that's kind of cool,
Rebel.
And also you can already see this massive spaceship, just like Star Wars basically. But I really like the design. It reminds me a lot of Warframe Grenier kind of vibes I get from this. And I don't know, it kind of enthralls you a little bit at the beginning, which I like. And after that pretty okay intro, you see those planets in the background, and you see a girl walking with an animal, and then you see a second title crawl, and you can already tell, yeah, this movie is low budget, which is weird because I think like the first movie, I don't know how much, I think it was like $190 million or something it cost, which I don't think is that low. So I'm pretty sure the whole low style, I guess, of the movie and how it is shot was intentional, which makes it like 10 times worse. And I don't know, like you can see this already throughout the whole movie, so I thought I would just point it out now. And sometimes it really works. Like sometimes you have some pretty cool scene, and then the camera, like weird, what should we call it, filter, I guess. The camera filter really works very well. But a lot of times it doesn't, and it makes the film look so fucking cheap. Just weird. It also makes it look a little bit like you're kind of in a theater, like everything feels like a set design, especially like when they open with the village and shit, and like the background you can definitely see is kind of CGI like, but it feels like it doesn't have layers or anything, like very theatrical like there's just a background. And maybe I can see how that was kind of intentional, but it just makes the movie look so goofy. I also just love how the main characters introduce themselves. You just have this guy say, Cora, Cora.
Cora!
I thought you were finished. Everyone's up in the longhouse.
And then the most awkward walk up to her, and it's just, I don't know, very funny. You can already tell that the chemistry is great in this movie. So after Cora and I guess the main love interest kind of walk up to their what you call it, like what Vikings have, I don't know, like their hall, I guess,
The longhouse.
with the king and the townspeople. And they kind of have this whole like celebrational speech or something about, oh, we're doing so well and fuck a lot of women, like actually. And you could already tell that the main character is depressed as fuck. So, and then she like walks up, and I think I'm pretty sure it's not her dad, but I guess her caregiver kind of talks about like you have the main love interest, but you also have this other boy that she likes. So the dad is kind of like, well, the other boy is really nice and all that stuff, and she's just like, I hate men, basically like that. And it's just very awkward, and already you don't feel invested in any character. Already the main character feels a bit like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Maybe it is just bad acting, I don't know. Like I've looked up this actress, I don't know her name, but already she doesn't play like that many good movies. Like her most famous movie aside from this, I think, is like Kingsman, and she played like the most annoying character in there, in my opinion. But like I don't know, this is something already very dry about the characters and acting in this movie. You can already tell. So I guess now I kind of have to explain the lore of this world a little bit. It's not interesting at all, but I guess I kind of have to, or else this whole video is gonna be hella confusing. So basically, okay, you have like this farm planet or something, and they have like a lot of grain and wheat and whatever the fuck, okay? So there are a lot of farmers that live there, and we kind of focus in the movie on this main farmer community where the main character also lives in, right? And this main farmer community is, well, farming basically, and they make profit off it. And so at the same time, there is like this massive, I honestly forgot how the villains are called because this movie is so boring. I think it's like the Motherhood or some shit like that. The motherboard. I don't know. We'll just call them the motherboard. But anyway, the motherboard kind of rules the entirety of space, basically, right? And they have like these massive warships, and each warship rules like one star system or some shit like that. So there's like this warship that arrives above their planet, and for some reason the main character is very afraid of this when the rest is just normally afraid. Might be important later, who knows. But anyway, and the warship is kind of there, and they want their grain, basically. They're like, yo, you guys are farmers, give us some food because our soldiers are, I don't know, hungry or some shit. And they don't want to do that because they're, I don't know, communists, I guess. It's weirdly portrayed as that. I don't know if that's intentional or some shit. But they they don't want to share their grain, all right? They don't want any trouble, basically. But like the main love interest is like, oh my god, we have to sell because that's smart. And then, we are on their good side because they're very strong. And obviously the main character and every person with a moral heart is like, no, because these guys have a massive evil empire, and helping villains is bad, guys. So they just don't want to do that, basically. So the main villains get out of their warship and land on the planet, and they're like, I want to make a trade, all right? And so they talk to like the leader of the town, and they're like, we want to get some grain. And the leader's like, oh no, we can't because we have too little or whatever. He's kind of bullshitting the villains, right? He's like, nah, fam, this is all for us. And then like the main love interest kind of fucks it all up because he wants to trade. So he's like, well, there is some grain that's left. And basically the villain leader of the warship is like, so your leader lied to me. And then he kicks the shit out of the leader, which was, it was very expected. Like the guy who plays the villain also plays Ajax in Deadpool. I'm pretty sure that's all I need to say about how that this guy is probably the most aggressive dude. Obviously not the actor in real life, but he just always plays like the most aggressive people, which I think is very funny. So we already knew that it was gonna kill the town leader, but it just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. A lot of that is wrong with this movie. Some things like the filter and the shaders is like easy to explain, right? You can just see it that it's bad. But a lot of stuff is more that the movie just feels very dry and the acting feels very off, even though there are a lot of good actors in this movie. And I can't really explain that very well. You just kind of have to go with it. And you can already tell by the story that it probably isn't the most interesting movie. But yeah, I hope I'm doing an okay job. But yeah, basically the main leader villain dude obviously gets his way when the fucking town guy is killed by him. So it's like, alright, trading it is. And then they kind of send like a troop of soldiers just to like, I guess, terrorize the area or some shit. I don't know. To kind of keep an eye on them so they harvest so that, they can trade or whatever the fuck. I don't know. And they have this like epic droid with them. And well, I probably should have said in the beginning, spoilers, duh, but spoilers, this droid is the most weird character in the entire story. It's so weird. Like when they introduce this droid, they're like, oh my god, these droids used to serve the king or something, but now the king is dead. They probably explained that it doesn't fucking matter, who cares, right? But the king is dead, so these droids now don't really have a purpose anymore. So they don't want to kill anyone for some reason or some shit. I think it's like to help the girl. This movie is so fucking confusing, alright? But they don't want to kill anyone, right? So they're kind of just there. And I thought, okay, maybe they're going to do something interesting with this. But no, this droid is the most fucking random character ever. He's just kind of there. Then, like, this girl is kind to him or some shit. And, like, then some battle breaks out between the soldiers. And because they're trying to, well, basically rape the fucking like girl or some shit. And with girl I just mean like this random blonde chick. I don't fucking know. But yeah, so like the main character intercepts is like, you can't do that, and have this epic fight scene, and the main character basically almost kills all of them. And then there's like the most Hollywood basic, oh, I'm gonna shoot you scene, and then the droid shoots him, and it's like, wait, weren't you guys meant to like not kill? Wasn't that like your whole decision? But no, I just want you guys to know how fucking confusing and weird this movie is. It doesn't make any sense. And by the way, I also just very randomly, like the main general dude of like those, I don't know, like Starship Troopers, I guess, looks a lot like Doom Guy or Doom Guy. I think it's Doom Guy. Like from Doom, obviously. So yeah, after they, shoot the fucking soldiers to death or whatever, the main character girl is kind of like, alright, I'm gonna find some epic heroes or some shit so they can help us defend this village. Because, well, obviously the evil guys are not gonna be okay that some of their troops got shot, so they're gonna kill the village, basically. And that's kind of the whole main quest of the movie. By the way, the main love interest also goes with her for some reason. I don't know. They give like the most bullshit reason. I don't know. But yeah, and that's kind of like the main mid part of the entire movie. And I I don't know. It's kind of like I get the concept. It's very like, I don't know, like just every adventure movie, but it's an interesting concept, so I get it. But they do it so badly. Like, it's like they basically go on this rant, right, to introduce like new characters. But they're trying to basically create the Goon Squad, all right? And they like meet, then like something happens or some shit, and then some epic edgy character comes along the way and just does something epic, and they're like, yeah, you join our squad now. And that's basically how it goes, like I said, every adventure movie. And like, I get it, but it's done so poorly. Like, they don't explain anything about the side characters, and they're like pretty important, right? Because they are gonna help them, fight back, I guess. But the side characters, like, they don't have any character. They're not explained. They're just there, like, oh, you fight, cool, bitch, and then they just come up with their Goon Squad and move on, and it's like the whole fucking thing. And this is the whole middle part of the movie. So for the rest, the two other things I would like to say about the middle part. Oh my. I'm trying to record, you little. First of all, like, I already said that the character development is so bad. Like, in the second movie, weirdly, they kind of develop more. So, yeah, but I'll talk about that, obviously, when I talk about the second movie. But the character development is already bad, but it also makes it very weird because everyone is just immediately, like, best friends in the movie. Instantly, and it's so weird. Like, they're all just, yeah, let's go, like, they, and it's hard to explain, but basically the movie acts like they are already like best friends for like 10 years, and the chemistry between the actors just feels very forced and odd. So it all feels just very fake, and combined with the shitty ass camera angles, filter, and that the movie looks dark as fuck, combined with the bad acting, or not really the bad acting, but just the bad characters and direction. And this is like the whole middle part, and actually just kind of the whole movie, is just a very boring, bland, raw movie that is just not enjoyable at all. And also, weirdly off tone, the second thing I would like to say about the characters is that I don't know what like Zack Snyder's idea was, but I guess he wanted kind of to have cultures in this whole like universe, I guess. So everyone kind of has a very weird accent, and it doesn't work at all. Like, a lot of people feel like from the village, a lot of people feel very Dutch and Norwegian, which, I mean, maybe that's why the main love interest actor is actually Dutch, so maybe that's why they casted him. I don't know, but it feels very weird. It feels like I'm watching Vikings, but they're just a very shitty knockoff. And I mean, that also makes sense because they have like this whole Viking village, I guess. But there's also just like a lot of Irish accents or some shit, and these actors are mostly like American. Maybe a few are actually Norwegian, but it just makes it so weird. Like, it's just so uncomfortable. It's like, why did you do this? But anyway, the Goon Squad is now together or whatever, and they're gonna try to go home to defend the village or whatever. But before that, one random side character of the Goon Squad is like, oh my god, I have to finish this tiefling deal so that I can finally stop being a thief or some shit, so I can be a good guy just like you. And you can already tell this is a massive trick. Yeah, like, this is just, what do you call that in anime? It's filler. It's filler, all right? You can already tell this is filler. But see, that's where you would be wrong, just like me. Because I thought, oh my god, they're gonna have some stupid filler and then skip towards the ending. Nah. This filler is the ending, all right? So guess what? They do that deal. The fucking guy, the side character in like the Goon Squad, obviously tricks them because he's an evil thief, like duh. And he's like, oh my god, motherhood, the rebels are over here. And the motherhood is like, what's up, gang? And apparently something I should have said way earlier, but I don't care, is that the main character has like this whole backstory, because obviously she wasn't born in the village, right? She already has like a caregiver, and the thing is that the main character used to work for the Motherhood. It's kind of like a Finn of the Force Awakens kind of story. She used to work for the Motherhood. She was very good. And I mean, she also wasn't born from the Motherhood. She was born from another village, but that village got attacked by the Motherhood, and then she started working for the Motherhood or some shit like that. And then and I think they explained it too, but fuck it. She has to kind of kill the princess of the king or something, because everyone is planning a coup, and she's kind of loyal to the king, but she's more loyal to some random dude who recruited her to the Motherhood and got her where she was. So she betrayed the king. Then everybody just blamed it on her. So she basically got double betrayed or whatever. And then she flees the Motherhood. It's like, oh my god, I'm such an idiot. And then she lands in the farmer's village. And that's her whole backstory, right? So she's basically portrayed as like, or at least from the Motherhood side, as the assassin of the king or whatever. Like, they all blame it on her. So she's like big money, basically. So the villain of the fucking warship, when the tiefling tells him, oh my god, the rebels are over here, he's like, hell yeah, man, I scored big, I'm gonna get a promotion. So you have this epic fight scene that isn't epic at all and feels very fucking amateur, but yeah, between the villains of the warship and the fucking goon squad, some goon members die, some warship members die, and in the end we have like the main character fighting the villain from Ajax from Deadpool, and he fails epically. And this was kind of more interesting. I think another thing that I need to mention is that the fight scenes in this movie are very, very bad, and that I more mean like hand-to-hand combat, because I don't know why, but Zack Snyder does like this slow motion thing or some shit where like everything is slow, and then suddenly you hear someone. I don't know how to fucking explain it, alright? It's just very dumb, alright? It's like, yeah, I don't know how to explain. It's basically slow motion, and then they hit someone and you hear noise. But yeah, and kind of the final battle, they don't really do that much, and it's actually kind of interesting, but you don't really care, because you don't really care about anything, because the movie was already ruined from the beginning. And then just the main villain dies. And it's like, bye-bye Ajax. And that was the movie. That's the whole fucking movie. I think it ends with like the goon squad riding towards the village, being like, yeah, now we can tell the village that we've won. And that's the whole movie. And I was just like, I think something I need to declare is that most of the time, basically actually all of the time, when I review something, I'm most of the time concentrated on what I'm reviewing. When I'm gonna review a movie, I'm gonna watch it with full concentration. This movie, after like the first 30 minutes, I just put on Minecraft and started playing Minecraft, because this movie is so fucking boring, dude. And it doesn't even look good as well. It also looks boring. I don't know how to explain. It looks like an AI came up with the plot of this movie, although not really, more the direction of the movie, because the plot is kind of, well, I don't think the plot is the right word, but like the ideas of this movie, I understand them. They could have worked, but the fucking shit direction of Zack Snyder ruins this entire movie, and it's just not good at all. So I think overall, Rebel Moon Part 1, well, I give my score at the ending, but it's just a very bad movie. Don't watch it, alright? So yeah, this was part 1. Let's talk about part 2. Hopefully it's better, guys. Now, I'll cut the second movie explanation short, because I don't know why, but I've never felt more dead inside reviewing a movie. Like, oh my god, kill me, alright? I'm just gonna do this quick. But basically, the second movie is kind of the first movie, but better and worse. I think the second movie gets lower. I think the second movie gets like a 5.2, and the first movie gets like a 5.4. But I actually think the second movie is better, but it's kind of how you look at it, because I feel like the first movie is just equally mid. It's just very mid, close to bad, Meanwhile, the second movie actually has some more watchable parts, and some way more horrible parts. It's kind of a mixed match. But the thing is, I enjoy it way more watching something that is sometimes alright and sometimes bad than just really fucking boring and medium, you know? So that's why I guess I like the second movie more. Maybe also because it was late at night and I watched the second one, so maybe I just have, with all the fucking, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, like vitamin water or some shit. My mind was just in another space. I don't fucking know. Or maybe I was just happy to end it. I don't know. But the second movie was just more enjoyable overall. The second movie's plot is also just better, I think. It starts off with the main villain like super randomly being resurrected for some shit. It's basically Darth Vader moment. And it's so weird, but it's like, oh my god, he lived after all. And it's so dumb. But like, the main characters realize this, and their whole plan is to kind of defend the village. That's their whole thing. And I don't know, it's way more interesting than the boring, whole plot of the first movie where it's like, we gotta connect the goon squad, basically. So I already like it a bit more. The camera, I don't know, maybe I got used to it, but it feels way less worse in this movie. The fight scenes, especially towards the ending, are way better. They're still not good, but they're way better. They're way more watchable. This movie does have some really wacky moments, though. Like, basically, there's like this whole backstory scene in the. It's so dumb. In like, I don't know, like the first 20 minutes of the movie or some shit about like the main character, right? And I already explained it like earlier, her whole backstory, and it's also this, so I'm not gonna get into it. But it's so dumb. There's like, it's the most wacky direction ever.
Where is the Kali? Why aren't the furnaces lit? Belisarius, I am talking to you.
No! The movie is also just like kind of stuck with like a lot of other very weird and awkward moments. Here are some.
So sharpen all the blades. We just now need to figure out what.
Listen. Listen. I've never been one for making confessions. Now, we know what each of us must do. You're all here because I want you to know who the hell you're fighting with. Everyone must share the truth.
It's the grain. Look, they piled it against the building, so we can't destroy them. And there, they've stacked to discover to shoot from.
Clever.
Certainly not the plans of a farmer. Seems General Titus hasn't drunk away his wits just.
And I also think there are some other things that are weird in the plot, even though the plot is better. Like, the whole thing is like, you have this massive warship, like Dreadnought ship in the sky, right? And the whole plan is to defend the village from a goddamn planet killer. How does that make any sense? It's a massive ship. And like, I get the whole thing of like, with the power of friendship, I get that. But what? It's like, it just doesn't make sense, man. Like, the whole thing in Star Wars, and yes, I'm gonna keep comparing it to Star Wars, because it's basically shittier Star Wars, is like, they have to kill the Death Star, right? Or to blow it up or some shit like that. Is it the Death Star? It's the Death Star, right? Oh god. I don't want to make the fans angry. I think it's the Death Star. They want to blow up the Death Star, right? And so the Han Solo and the whole rebellion and Luke is like, alright, we got this, homies. And it's way more interesting, because you feel this sense of fear, like Darth Vader is this strong guy. You see that in the opening and shit. And the fucking Republic is massive. Killing the Death Star, blowing up, is gonna be hard, But they use the tactics. They have ships, whatever. They're still strong. So they try to plan it and whatever. And eventually it works, because they have great pilots and whatever. And you have Luke fighting the main villain. And it just feels so much more logical, rewarded, and planned out. Meanwhile, here, It's like, what? You have like the most smallest village with like 30 people, and they're just gonna learn how to fight in like 5 days against the mothership. How the fuck does that make any sense? So yeah, I don't know. That just really pissed me off while watching this movie. But like I said, it is a bit more bearable. Also, something I should have mentioned in the first movie is that the soundtrack is also pretty nice, I guess. They have a lot of like weird songs or whatever. But like overall, it's still pretty nice, I guess. Like the soundtrack is pretty there are some slappers, I guess. But overall, the second movie also sucks ass. It's just not good. I don't know what to say about it. I want to say, normally I say you should see it for yourself. I think I already said that in this video. But don't watch it for yourself. Just take my word for it and live with pride. You don't want to. These movies are both 2 hours. You'll be wasting 4 hours of your life watching the most, not even funny bad, just horrible. It's just horrible. That's how I would describe these movies. So anyway, basically they try to defend the whole village, obviously, from the main villains, and that's kind of the whole thing because the main villain is back. And then eventually the main villain, arrives on the planet, and also the girl almost like gives up on the whole plan, but then the love interest starts the war anyway. And it's kind of this epic battle in like the farmland, and I like it a bit more. It's a bit more better than every other fight scene. It actually works quite nice. I think it's also the whole thing, like that the kind of village people fight as well is kind of cute in a way, and I like that they kind of planned it. I don't know. It's just it's always a bit satisfying, really, in a movie when you have like this massive battle when shit is planned out. When I was a kid, I always liked the movies with like I don't know. Do I have an example? Like Troy, for example. That movie was awesome because everything was kind of planned out how they would fuck each other, right? And that was very cool. And you have all these village people not really knowing how to fight, but they're following orders, and it's very cute. You also have that in Star Wars and also Lord of the Rings. And I don't know, that's kind of fun, I guess. It wasn't a good battle, but I don't know, it was a little bit enjoyable at times. And also partly something I think I said that in the first part, but in this part, the main characters actually get a backstory explanation. And that makes it so much better. It's still so bad, but it's like so much better than just having the most blank characters. Oh, I don't want to use this word, but I think it's actually perfect. In the first movie, they sound like NPCs, alright? Like the side characters just sound like blank slates, being like, yes, yeah, come on, like that. And like in the second, they actually have some backstory. It's so horrible, but it's a bit better. So I guess also in the final battle, it works a little bit more when you have a little bit more stakes, So I don't really understand why the second movie gets lower. I don't know. I don't know if it was more advertised as well, but I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't say shit, I don't know. But I feel like the second movie was more watched. So maybe also more common people were like, wow, this is really garbage. And just that, or maybe everybody just hates Zack Snyder at this point. I don't know. But yeah, I think the second movie is a bit better. And overall, sorry for this massive rant, but yeah, that is basically my kind of main points that I think about Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, and Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. So overall, I'm just disappointed at Zack Snyder. These movies are the most mediocre movies I've ever seen, and it just makes me sad. I was expecting at least some good garbage, but nah, it was just trash. It was just bad. And that makes me sad. That's why I think, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, a 4 out of 10. And Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, a 5 out of 10. Because, well, the reasons I mentioned earlier. But overall, I hope you guys liked this video. I will be uploading another video this week or Monday. So, something like that in a few days as well. So, I hope you guys like that one as well. And like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.